Have you heard of the farm escape story? 5 friends decided to escape the city for a long weekend getaway. They took the map in their hands and set out towards a small town they happened to discover. Along the way, green fields and distant mountain silhouettes accompanied them. Suddenly, an old signboard with the words "Lost Time Farm" caught their attention. Curiosity took over, and they decided to enter the farm. They parked their cars by the roadside and walked towards the mysterious farm. As they entered through the gate, the tranquility and peace around them made them feel distant from the chaos of the town. The farm was filled with lush green fields and old wooden buildings. Barns, haystacks, and the old farmhouse created a timeless atmosphere in enchanting harmony. However, this calmness began to change into an unsettling ambiance. While wandering through the farm, the friends encountered an elderly farmer working in the fields. The farmer, introducing himself as Abraham, greeted them warmly. Abraham offered to give them a tour of the farm, and the friends started to learn about the mysterious history of this forgotten place. However, as sunset approached, the atmosphere on the farm changed. The sky turned reddish, and the rustling of the wind created a tension they hadn't felt before. As they roamed the fields, they heard strange sounds coming from the old barn. Upon entering the barn, they were told by Abraham that one of his chickens had died, showing traces of a hunter. Yet, upon closer inspection, the friends noticed that the tracks were human footprints. Suspiciously disappearing, Abraham vanished among the fields. When the friends decided to leave the farm, a strange sound echoed through the fields, and a mysterious figure with a covered face and an old scythe appeared. Panic set in as the elderly farmer chased them through the fields. A mysterious chase had begun. As the friends followed the enigmatic traces left by the old farmer, the serenity and silence of the farm gave way to rising tension and fear. In the midst of the pursuit, the friends discovered that the farmer existed to protect the secrets behind everything on the farm. Eventually, they managed to incapacitate Farmer Abraham. As the friends left the farm, wandering through the fields, they started to drift apart and got lost in the deep forest. The night fell, and the rain began to paint a haunting melody around the farm. Suddenly, an isolated house emerged from the depths of the forest. The creaking wooden door opened on its own as they stepped inside. They found themselves in a room filled with broken furniture and dusty sheets, an atmosphere frozen in time. However, the silence inside the house was disrupted by moans and whispers spreading through each room. The friends realized that the ghost of the old farmer refused to leave and was hunting them one by one. In moments filled with tension, the ghost threw each friend's past mistakes in their faces, dragging them into a dark room. In the mysterious house, as the friends witnessed each other's dreadful fates, the ghost of the farmer was leading each of them towards a dark end in revenge for the tragic events that occurred on the old farm. Each scream behind a closed door made the next one even more terrifying. In the end, only one person survived. The ghost of the elderly farmer pushed the remaining friend into a dark room. When the door closed, the silence around momentarily froze. However, the subsequent moans and whispers indicated that the past of the farm was still alive. The night farm, where the friends were dragged into a dark end, had turned into a labyrinth filled with doors that never closed and the internal screams of ghosts. After that night, the farm in the depths of the forest had become a dreadful legacy ruled by the ghosts of the past. As the sun began to set, he arrived at a desolate neighborhood far from the city. This neighborhood seemed like a place where time had come to a standstill. Flickering streetlights cast their pale lights on the shadowy streets, and the dilapidated houses silently narrated the story of the past. The man, an enthusiast of exploring abandoned buildings, viewed them as real treasures in their ruined state. But this time, the experience awaiting him would be drastically different. When darkness started to fall, the man stood in front of an old and grand house. The door seemed to be ajar, inviting. As he stepped inside, a silence steeped in history surrounded him. The hallways were adorned with old paintings, images of forgotten memories. Suddenly, a peculiar sound echoed from within the house. It resembled crying but seemed to reverberate from the very wooden boards of the house. A chilling breeze descended from the top of the staircase, instilling in him a profound sense of unease. In the dim light, he noticed a shadowy figure. Descending the stairs was an elderly, pale-skinned woman. Her hair was dark, and her eyes appeared cloudy and vacant. The woman whispered in a thin voice, "Why have you come here?" A shiver ran down the man's spine. Yet, his curiosity and obsession prevented him from taking a step back. The woman began recounting the history of the house, her family who had lived here years ago, and the sorrowful days spent within these walls. Gradually, strange sounds emanated from other rooms in the house. Screams, doors closing rapidly. The man's expression changed. He felt as if something within the house had awakened. His eyes, in the faint light, caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure. Descending the stairs was an elderly, pale-skinned woman. Her hair was dark, and her eyes appeared cloudy and vacant. The woman whispered in a thin voice, "Why have you come here?" A shiver ran down the man's spine. Yet his curiosity and obsession prevented him from taking a step back. The woman began recounting the history of the house, her family who had lived here years ago, and the sorrowful days spent within these walls. Gradually, strange sounds emanated from other rooms in the house. Screams, doors closing rapidly. The man's expression changed. He felt as if something within the house had awakened. His eyes, in the faint light, caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure. Suddenly, from one of the rooms, an elderly man emerged. His eyes were red, gleaming faintly in the dim light. He claimed to be the former owner of the house, stating that he sought revenge. His presence seemed to stir the other ghosts in the house. Escape routes were closing in. The man's heart raced as the cries of the ghosts intoxicated him. At that moment, the idea of fleeing crossed his mind, but the doors swiftly closing trapped him inside. Another ghostly figure emerged from the house. The room filled with the echoes of their screams and whispers, disrupting the silence of the neighborhood. The man's presence within the abandoned house transformed into a haunting, ghostly entity where the dark past held sway. In the end, the man found himself trapped in a room. Ghosts surrounded him, and as the door closed rapidly, he was left alone in the darkness. Echoing screams and whispers behind him shattered the silence of the neighborhood. The man's existence within the abandoned house became a specter, a manifestation of the dark past. Darkness had engulfed the abandoned factory. As the rusty doors creaked open, a group of friends had gathered to unravel the mysteries within this desolate structure. The silence and uncertainty of the abandoned place awaited them. Echoing footsteps through the corridors followed the long-lost machine sounds that seemed to have lost all meaning. As the group ventured deeper, the once bustling machines now stood silent. Instead of humming with activity, they stood as if frozen in time. With each step, the group felt a strange energy circulating in the air. Moving towards the source, the group found an eerie presence on the first floor. Dust-covered machines stood still as the hum seemed to be coming from the empty cardboard boxes perched atop them. Yet, nothing visible seemed to be causing the strange humming. As the group explored, the mysterious humming grew more distinct. This time it resembled a whispering hive of thousands of bees weaving in and out of the thin frequency. The group followed the mysterious sound into a room, and upon entering, a dusty conference room emerged. The old table at the center vibrated with an odd resonance. The dusty cardboard boxes on top of it seemed to collide, creating an uncanny melody. As the group cautiously stepped into the room, the vibrations intensified. This time, the sound carried a sense of sorrow and despair. Suddenly, one of the cardboard boxes spontaneously burst open, revealing a series of old photographs. The photographs depicted the people who once worked in the factory. Smiling faces, memories filled with achievements. However, one photo stood out from the rest. The photograph displayed the owner of the factory, his face expressing an uneasy emotion. As the group focused on the photograph, they felt an invisible presence in the room. The humming seemed to carry the screams of a lost time, a pain from the past. The group understood that the old photographs and the mysterious sound were somehow connected to the spirit of the factory's owner lingering in the room. At that moment, one photograph changed rapidly, transforming into a scream. All the machines in the factory started operating at once, but this time with an unprecedented noise. The clattering of metal, the buzzing of machines, the dance of shadows. Everything merged into an incomprehensible symphony. The group attempted to escape, but the doors quickly closed, trapping them inside. The silence abruptly gave way to an endless noise. Cardboard boxes, old photographs, machine sounds. Everything intertwined, dragging the group into a frenzy. Eventually, the noise ceased, and the factory returned to its silent state. The group returned to the seemingly empty room. However, the silence within the factory no longer held only the traces of the past. The group, lost within the abandoned factory, felt as though they had become prisoners of an endless noise.